Hey everyone, and welcome to Joyful Homemaking. We are so excited to be back on video and on audio. And I was just telling Ashley, we shared our podcast on YouTube, and we have a lot of new listeners. So Ashley and her brilliance reminded us that we should probably introduce ourselves. So, hey y'all, I'm Marissa, and this is my beautiful friend Ashley, and we just want to tell you a little bit about ourselves and then get started on part 2 of praying for our husbands. So Ashley, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Okay. I'm Ashley and I live in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, down a dirt road with my family. My husband, who just turned 40 yesterday, Marissa.
Happy birthday, Lane!
Yeah, crazy. We're feeling old, but anybody older than that is like, that's not old. Don't say that. But then maybe our younger listeners are thinking, wow, it's really old. Anyway, so my husband and I have been married for 17 years. And we have 4 busy and fun kids who are currently 14, 12, 10, and 7. And I homeschool, and we have livestock animals, and I'm very involved in our church and our church's co-op. And Marissa and I met 6 years ago.
Yeah, because wasn't I pregnant with Felicity?
I think she was yittle. She was just a little baby. Yeah.
Yeah, so like 6 years ago. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so wild. Anyway, karate.
Yes.
We had kids doing karate. Karate's fine if you're into karate, but the main reason is because we both really loved the program. The instructors were amazing, and they had our kids memorizing scripture. They're just wonderful. Hopefully they'll move, I don't know, back to where I live. They've moved for a while. But anyway, all that to say, we met then, became good, quick friends. I could tell just looking at Marissa, I was like, I want to be her friend. So anyway, thankfully the Lord saw fit to allow me that blessing. And so we were friends in the same area for a long time. And then she moved. So anyway, Marissa, go ahead.
I moved. Also grew up in the Pacific Northwest where Ashley is. And then about, not quite 2 years ago, around a year and a half ago, we moved to Southeast Idaho. So now my family is here, and my husband and I have been married for almost 15 years, and I will be the one that hits 40 before him. That will be in about another year. Me and Lane will be in the 40s club. It'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 children. My oldest is 11, and then I have an almost 10-year-old. Next week is his birthday, which is so fun. And 8, 7, 6, 2, and almost 5 months. So we just have the span between me and you, Ashley. And I love being a mom. I love being a homemaker, and I have been growing in that since the beginning and have not arrived, right? Mm-hmm. It is a constant journey, and we are just excited to share our story about things that impact us. And just our prayer would be to be those tightest 2 women to those listening today. So welcome. We're so excited you're here. You'll definitely hear some stories about the farm, like Ashley talked about. They have livestock and a little bit of acreage, and we're growing in that here. In Idaho, we also have a little bit of acreage, and our goats right now are meeting with the mister at a different farm so that hopefully we can have some baby goats.
Okay. What is a male goat? What are they called? Is there a specific?
A buck, just a doe.
They are
and
a buck.
Yeah.
Okay. A doe and a buck. Okay, so it's not your buck.
No, we do not have a buck. Yes, at this point. Okay. So they're having a little vacation over at our friend's farm.
Okay.
And we're going to pick them up this week. So, Lord willing.
How many does do you have?
3.
Okay. So chances are good.
Chances are good. And we have 2 milking goats and 1 meat goat, but they're all being bred to the same buck because, long story made short, the meat goat is a boar goat, and they can have be finicky with their deliveries, especially their first ones, until they're
Oh,
proven
okay.
good at that. And so they're a meat breed, so they're chunkier. And so we're breeding it to a goat breed. It's a dual purpose breed, but a Nubian, so it's a little smaller. So we'll see
Oh, yeah.
if that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's exciting.
So funny.
I know the things we find exciting. Maybe not everybody finds that exciting, but I certainly do.
Some people are going to be
Yeah.
like, and I thought we were talking about praying for our husbands today.
It was a faith podcast, but here we are talking about breeding goats. Anyway. Yeah.
We're here for it.
It's all good. And we believe, I will just say this for the both of us, I assume you agree. We believe that homemaking, cooking, raising our livestock, raising our kid, like all of the things that God has given us that we are to do to his glory, it's all encompassing. It's all important. We believe that making our homes beautiful and comfortable is important. We believe that, so we might talk about things that are quote unquote more spiritual, like praying, but we also believe that we are showing Christ to our children, to our family, to our community through all of the things that we do, even down to breeding our goats. I mean, It's all, it's all for his glory. So these details, we believe are important as homemakers and stewards of what God has given us. So anyway, that's why we talk about these things too. So yeah.
It's so true. We just went to the store the other day, and every time we pull up somewhere, I asked my kids in the car, I said, okay, who are we representing today? As we are going into places, remember, this is our chance to be a witness and a testimony and to show God's glory through everything we do, even shopping at the grocery store.
That's a good reminder. That's a great idea to even do it. I mean, we'll do that sometimes before trips, especially certain trips, depending on who we're going to be around, what we're going to do. But that's just, even to say that, just pulling up to the grocery store, and that will impact your kids. For the rest of their lives, they pull up to the grocery store and think, okay, I'm an ambassador for Christ. What am I going to do? Yeah. So, how am I going to act? I love that idea.
So good. Okay, well, let's jump in today because Ashley and I were joking that we have 25 that we've listed out of different prayers for our husbands, and we only got to number 5 last time. So we will see how far we can get today, and we might make this amazing series of praying for our husbands in different parts of the year this year. Number 6 today is actually something we just talked about at church for our family last Sunday. So I'm excited to talk to you about it, Ashley, and to include it in my intentional prayer time for my husband. As we talked about last week, sometimes prayers are they're multifaceted, right? You can do quick little prayers in the moment. You can have intentional, deep, thoughtful prayers, praying scripture over your husband, praying for specific needs, all the things. And so if you didn't get to listen to that last episode, we do go over the importance of prayer for our husbands. But number 6, for temptations. And I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has come upon you except what is common to humanity. But God is faithful. He will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to bear it. And we actually are not learning 1 Corinthians right now. Church, we are working through Matthew, which Ashley might find humorous because before we left Oregon to move to Idaho, we were doing Matthew then. So maybe the Lord is speaking to our family that we just need to do Matthew. But we were talking about the Lord's Prayer and how it says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And just this premise that it is right and it is appropriate and good to pray to not even be tempted, right? Yes, the Lord will provide a way out. We hear that in 1 Corinthians 10:13 that we just read, and we hear that in the Lord's Prayer. But to be praying and thoughtful about just asking the Lord to protect, right? Protect against those temptations, and how wonderful that is for us as wives to be dedicated to praying for our husband's temptations. And I'm going to say a quick joke, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Ashley. I'll pair the joke with a serious comment. We have in our family, between Darren and I, certain, like, I wouldn't call them rules, but I'd say boundaries that we have developed that help us to be mindful of each other's concerns when it comes to temptations. And one of those things is that, like, I don't just text men by myself. For example, like, either if I'm going to like text a pastor or somebody in our home group, Darren either knows about it or he's on the message with us. And that's my own thing, because I struggled with different temptations when I was younger. And similar, Darren and I have like free, like, we know each other's passwords and everything. There's nothing that's just him and just me. We're both free and able to pick up the phone and to see what one another is doing, or computer, or we're really quick to talk about conversations that we've had with the opposite sex. But one temptation that has arisen from being here on the farm is, this is the joke, and there's a reel about it. It says, I trust my husband completely with, all these, female names. She's like, but I don't trust him with Farmer Joe down the road trying to sell a truck, like, Facebook Marketplace. I don't trust that temptation anymore. All the things. But I think that good rules in place and good boundaries for not only your husband, for you too, is important, and to be preventative in prayer for that. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, I feel like I saw something like that too, and it was cracking me up because, yeah, it's true. It's a whole, going back to livestock. Here we go again, going back to livestock, but it's true. It can be a temptation, but I think the real point of that, the root of that, is contentedness, right? And gratitude for what we already have. And that, when we think of men's temptations, everybody goes directly to sexual temptations. I mean, that's just what we think of. And as wives, it's like, it can almost be like anxiety, like we feel anxious about, like, is he being tempted? Is he seeing things? Okay, first of all, I don't know how to say this without again, I'm not trying to induce anxiety here, but like, he is seeing things. Men are bombarded with images all the time, no matter how many things they have on their phone, no matter how much they're trying not to, it's everywhere. I mean, you can't go to a public place without having someone indecently dressed. I mean, or a poster, or like, it is everywhere. They're going to face it. I mean, so are our sons, but that's a different topic. But so what can we do? Well, getting anxious, wringing our hands is not going to help. Prayer, like we're talking about, obviously, is going to help. And also, I do feel like the Bible, it talks about, a lot. We think about like the empty house. You can't just sweep the house clean and leave it empty and not fill it with something, right? Like you can't just take sin away and not fill it with the Holy Spirit. So when you think about various temptations, sexual temptations, well, you can't just pray that he won't be tempted and then not fulfill him in that way and expect it to be okay. So there's things that we can do beyond just prayer to help him in that area. Obviously, hopefully that's obvious, but maybe some women might not think that or understand that. And so, but I think the same thing for gratitude and contentment, right? If we feel like maybe our husband is tempted to, look at someone else's tractor and that's I guess kind of a silly example, but kind of not too, especially when you live in sort of the world that you and I live in. Like, they might see something and go, oh, I wish I had that, or I wish I made more money to get that, or, oh, so-and-so is taking their family to Hawaii and I can't do that. Well, yes, we can pray that they won't fall into temptation over discontentedness or ingratitude, but we also can be contented and be grateful and show that to our husbands. I'm so thankful that you provide enough for me to buy groceries. I am so thankful we live in this house. I love, just so I think those, like, we have to know we're praying, but we also can be an answer to those prayers in a lot of ways. We have to pair it with our own action because we are one with our husbands. And so I hope that makes sense. But I think it's really important to remember as we're praying, God may be saying, yes, and you need to help. You are in fact the help meet. You need to do these things for your husband. Show gratitude, show contentment, be available for him so that those temptations don't actually lead to sin.
For sure. I love that you use the word helpmate because we don't need to be helpless in this scenario, right? When we commit to prayer and to commit to being that role for our husbands, we are partnering together just as he partners with us. Maybe we're not as tempted in the physical, but we're tempted in the emotional, and he grounds us, right? Because maybe he's more a logical thinker. We are paired together for a reason, and we are to be each other's support. And I love that. I was also thinking of other temptations too, maybe not just physical, but the temptation for escapism. And we've talked about that here on the podcast a little bit, but especially when your husbands work all day and then they have to transition from like work mind to like home mind, and sometimes they just want a break or whatever. So just praying how you can support them through that, and praying for them to when it comes to escapism. And I was also thinking something that Darren and I are working on right now that we have both fallen temptation to, and it's ironic because it's January, and so I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about this too, but like gluttony, or fulfilling pleasures through food. We love food. Food is definitely something that I'm working on 24/7 at our house because we're feeding an army. As Ashley knows, her army eats as much as my army, and she has less of them. But food can be such an opportunity to show love and compassion to others, to your family. But it could also be something that is just consumed without consideration for if you're full or if you're bored or just desiring sweets because it's winter and we're all in like hibernation mode, So those are some other ones. Is there any other ones that stick out to you, Ashley, about temptation?
Yeah, I mean, I think paired with like kind of gluttony, I guess, would just be consumerism in general, consuming consumerism. But that is also paired with like a contentedness in gratitude. But these are all, like you're saying, they are temptations that we fall into just as much, of course. So we pray for ourselves, but we can also be praying for our husbands about that. But I think, consumerism, especially I think about so often I'm home, I have the things I need at home for the most part, but our husbands, especially if they're working outside the home, they're away from the home all day. They're bombarded with all of the things that the world is trying to get them to consume and to think are important. And so I think praying that their minds would be guarded against just the consumerism of the world, and all the marketing that's just, it's everywhere. And it's just the water we swim in. And so we don't even see it most of the time, I think, but maybe we see it more as homemakers, being home and in our little comfortable bubble. And then you go out and you're like, oh my word, why does everybody want me to give them a piece of my money and buy things and do things? So that's just something to think about guarding against too.
So good. So good. All right. Well, number 7 is a fun one. And we're going to pray that our husbands would have a giving heart. And we're going to look at Proverbs 28:27. The one who gives to the poor will not be in need, but one who turns his eyes away will receive many curses. I think that in general, I was listening to, there was like these top 3 things that women look for in men. And one of them is kindness, or like a sincerity to serve others or to be generous with what you have. And it is something that I know we could all admire in our husbands and something that we should praise them for. However, prayer is so important when it comes to generosity, because there is that human temptation to either, when we give, have certain expectations that come from that giving, whether that is our time or our money or our resources. I know that personally, it's hard to like give generously and then like maybe say it's to a person, like give generously to that person or that ministry or whatever. And then like watch to see what are they using the money for, like it is good to have accountability, but it's not, that's a different component than generosity, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is a very important, like you were saying, to within our resources, our money, and our time. I like that you listed those three because those are three things that we can be generous with. And I think that it's important to pray about that. And then also to pray that our hearts would be guarded as much as our husbands, because I think I see sometimes, and I'm not saying that this can't go wrong, but sometimes men will give their time to do something, give their money, and women will say, well, I really could have used him here doing this project, but I wanted him, like our roof needs to be redone. I don't know why he's going over and helping so-and-so do this. Or so I think we need to make sure that our hearts are in the right place when we pray these things too, just that we are not going to become bitter. And I'm not saying it can't go the wrong way, where men are in fact volunteering all their time at everybody else's houses and neglecting their own family. Or, I mean, we see that a lot. Sadly, I think I've heard multiple stories in the missionary world where you have men that are spending all their time on the field and neglecting their own family, which is their first calling for mission work. But anyhow, so I just think that's a good thing to guard against. And also, like you said, just to pray that, you know what, if you're giving something, you give the results to God. You don't then say, okay, we gave that money to that missionary and I would like to see his credit card receipts and his spending, like that's on him now. You did your job before the Lord, and now it's his job to be a good steward of what he's been given by you. And the same goes with, time and all of those things, that we would pray that our husbands wouldn't do things for accolades, but that they would do it to bring God glory, and because that's what we're called to do.
So true. And I feel like a little bit number 8 goes with number 7. So I'm just going to read it and we can bounce off each other for it. But it's for discernment and handling finances. And so we can look at Luke chapter 16, verse 13 says, "No servant can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." And I think that we can do that in two ways, right? We can either do this prosperity version of it where, we desire so much money, we feel like we're owed it or entitled to it. And then we could do the poverty side of it where we don't, like, we give it all away, like there is like that balance of discernment about creating wealth for the purpose of God's glory and providing for your household and your legacy, which does talk about that in the Bible. And then there's also this balance of like, but the love of money is the root of the evil, right? And so viewing that money as not yours, it is God's, and how does God want you to use it? And that discernment, man, it's a hard thing. Darren and I are doing a no spend January. Have you heard of this? Where we're trying to not spend any money except for like bills, like utility, whatever. And we've set like an $800 grocery budget, which Ashley knows is way less than I should be spending, or that I do spend regularly. And we're really going to try to shop from like our pantry and our fridge and our freezer and make this month. So far, we haven't spent more, but I did have to buy diapers, and that I did not. That was a big one. I was like, okay, where do I put that? Do I put that in the 800 or not? But anywho, all that to say, like day one, I failed. Day one. And January 1st, we went ice skating, and Darren's brother was in town. So it was like an event. So we were like, okay, fresh start, day 2. I haven't spent any money. By the way, my dog's trying to get in our podcast. I haven't spent any money since day 1, and it has been hard. I
really.
didn't think it would be hard. I'm like, I don't spend that much money. I'm at church Sunday morning and the pastor like recommends this book, like a short little book that goes with what we're learning about. I'm like, oh, I'll just Amazon it. I
You
can't
can't do
Amazon
it.
it.
Oh my goodness.
That was total tangent though, to tell you that this discernment of finances is no joke. And I know that some marriages, like just the wife does the finances. My dog wants to be in the video.
Yeah.
Here we go. Say hi.
Puppy.
Hello.
Oh, she's so cute.
Well, anyway, sorry. So I know like in some marriages, one of the spouses, like husband or wife, does the finances, but it is really important in the discernment of finances to be talking about it at the very least, right? Like even if you're not the one in charge, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, so I won't labor this too much, but just that it is like, you know, something to be prayerful about, something to be a helpmate in. Like if your husband's feeling stressed about money or finances, like what can you do? Can you do a no spend January? I don't know. That's where we were at because of all the health bills coming in. We were like, okay, we just need to simmer down a little bit for this month. And I thought, oh, I got this in the bag. I did not. I mean, I haven't spent it, but it's been difficult. Okay, Ashley, round us back up because I'm just tangenting all over here.
No, I'm going to keep going with the tangent. What about gas?
Oh yeah. So anything that is in the normal budget, I would say, but I should probably, that's a really good question. I wonder if we could cut gas for the second half of the month. The only place that we do a lot of gas is Darren has to go to work, which is like 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
So that's in church. But other than that, I feel like we haven't really done a lot of gas. So I have to look into that. Ooh, I like this.
I know. Well, that is the thing about, yeah, because I feel like when I'm thinking of not spending money, I forget that like literally just getting in my car and going somewhere I'm literally burning money.
Yes.
When I get in my car.
Yes.
Anyhow.
It's so true.
Okay. Sorry, this is weird. Could you turn? I only see half your face. I don't know why. There you are. Okay. It was because we had to see Annie. Anyway.
Annie. Ruin everything here.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. I think we should move on to number 9.
Okay. Number 9. And do you want to look it up? No, I can look it up. Or it's Jeremiah 29:11. It's actually the verse that I feel like is used out of context a lot, but I think it's actually surprisingly very fitting, and I will tell you why here in a second. But the prayer would be that he, our husband, would trust in God's plans, not his own. And Jeremiah 29:11 is for, go ahead. Do you have it?
Okay, let me see. Do I know it? For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper. Oh
Yeah.
no. Plans. Okay, this version says plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.
Yes. And in the mix of the story of Jeremiah, right? Like a lot of people use this out of context to like talk about all the blessings that come. And there are blessings. Obviously, God has blessings in every corner, but the misconstrued blessing that life will be easy, that life will be in your favor all the time, when actually isn't right now in that story of Jeremiah. They're like being destroyed by the people around them. And I was just thinking about that for our husbands, about we measure success, or we measure how life is going by like outside events, outside money, outside things. But really our perspective in our prayer life would that be, we trust that God's plan is what is best, not what our plan is. And I was listening to from Canon Plus, and I am plugging this because Ashley gave it to me for my birthday. And I'm still listening to it. It's like a little subscription thing. And I don't know if you've listened to this one, but it's about raising boys. And it was a documentary based on the book that Douglas Wilson wrote about boys to men, or something like that.
Raising boys to be men or something.
Yeah. Did you watch that documentary?
I didn't. Anything that I have to watch. This is why I'm always confused that people are watching this podcast right now. Anything I have to watch, I won't. But I think I did listen to that book years ago, possibly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, on this documentary, he interviews, or, it's that style where they're interviewing and hearing other people, other pastors, someone from the school, the college, just different men. interviewing them about raising boys. And this one guy, and I'm so sorry that I forgot his name and I'm bringing it up here on the podcast today, but he made a comment about our thought of success for our children in general, but speaking of boys right now, is that we want to raise them that they will have easy, successful lives up into retirement, travel, like we picture that American dream. And that's what we picture as success when it comes to raising the boys and praying for our husbands in this matter too. He said, but do you remember how old Jesus was when he died? He died at, like 30. He didn't make it to that retirement age. Sorry, I'm going to cough here. You have your water.
I know, I do.
Sorry about that, Ash.
Go ahead, tickle. No problem.
I'm probably not good enough to edit this out either, so.
That's fine. It's all right. We cough.
We always cough. We being me. Anywho, I still have it in my throat, so you'll hear me kind of talk funny. But he also brought up like men in the military a while ago. Yes, I'm okay, dog. That these men, like would die on the battlefield and at like young men, and their life was in sacrifice for their country, for their family. And I don't know, it just got me thinking about, it's not the American dream that represents success. And I think praying for our husbands in that is important. Okay, go girl.
Yeah, it is so true, because we do think of the American dream as the measure of success. But in fact, what is it? Like, what is the biblical measure of success?
Right.
Well, laying your life down. I mean,
Yes.
Death is the measure of success. Like, are you dying well? So,
are you dying? That's so true. Are you dying well?
It really, really is. Like, are you, laying down our life, putting others above ourselves. Yeah. And our measure of success in our minds is like, how is the 5K doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening with, So, interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to, it sounds like a documentary that I actually don't have to watch. It's just a guy talking. It's kind of like this.
Yeah.
I could just listen to it. Yeah.
I think that the reason I enjoy sometimes documentaries is when Darren and I listen to them together and can stop and talk about it afterwards sometimes. And specifically because we started, I don't know if I told you this or not. We started on Sunday evenings, actually, Fair Maidens and Nights in Training. Did I tell you this?
Yes. So
maybe I even said it on the podcast too. I'm so bad. But
I don't know.
We're trying to meet with just the boys and then just the girls and talk about, biblical masculinity and biblical femininity and how to become, women of God and men of God. And so this documentary made sense to talk about because we were doing that. I'm so sorry. I'm coughing still.
No, you're fine. I'm sorry that you have a tickle.
I mean,
a tickle going on.
If I was still in my heightened charismatic stage, I'd say, get behind me, Satan. That's a story in itself, but
pray for your husband.
Yes.
To look to the Bible for measure of success and not to the world. Because again, he is out in the world so much if he is working outside even if not working outside the home, I think of like the men that are on their computers all day long and they're getting emails from all over and probably working for a company that's not a Christian company. There's just so many ways for the world to be infiltrated into our brains and hearts.
And number 10 goes right in with everything we've been praying. It's like they're all in cahoots. It's like the Bible has like a general theme or something.
Almost as if it all goes together.
That he would give everything to the Lord in prayer. And we look to 1 Thessalonians 5:17 for this encouragement, saying, pray constantly, give thanks in everything, for this is God's will for you in Jesus Christ. I think we're so quick to, I read 17 and 18. Verse 17 is just pray constantly. Period. End of sentence. But pray continuously. I think another version says, I'm reading out of the CBS Bible today, but how quick are we to talk about things? How quick are we to make decisions without consulting prayer, consulting God in? And so just that, that reminder that in all things that we can look to him. How good are you at this, Ash? I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, because, and I wonder too, like, is it because in our own pride, we just don't even consider, why would I need to pray about this? But I think that even this particular thing to pray for our husbands is a good reminder to us to pray for our husbands, especially if we see something in him that we think, again, most likely in our pride, like, oh, I don't care for that I'm seeing, or I don't know if he should be doing that, or he, and so pray for him, and pray for him as he's making decisions for the family, even if you disagree with those decisions. So praying for his prayer life, that is an interesting thought, but so important. And I also, I just feel like as I was thinking through all of these things, I was thinking about just sort of our audience, and who, we're hopefully speaking to homemakers, probably mothers, probably, maybe homeschoolers, just women that have a lot going on and are like, okay, 25 prayer points. I'm going to have to reserve 2.5 hours, get up earlier in the morning, like that sort of thing. When we say this, it's not like you have to have your bingo card of prayer and hit all of them. But these are things, and it's been helpful for me to think about things like, have I prayed for these things for my husband recently? And maybe one of the things that we prayed, having a giving heart, like maybe that's something that you've never thought to pray for your husband. But as we bring it up, it's something that you might think, oh, yeah, that's now something I've thought about, but I've never prayed for that for my husband. And so this is really why we're bringing it up. We're not bringing it up because we think that women need more to do, or like a bigger laundry list of stuff. But hopefully this is helpful. And I wonder, well, maybe when we're done with the series, or maybe as we go, we could like put the list on our pot, or on our that thing that we have, the Instagram. The Instagram, there it is. Just for people to refer back to too, in case, you're listening while you're doing laundry or dishes or something and not necessarily able to write things down, as I have been writing things down this whole time. But anyway, since we're talking about prayer, giving everything to the Lord in prayer, number 10, I just thought I love it. Bring that up. Yeah. So. I have it handwritten out, so I should make it look cutesy, and I should like type it out and put it up there. Well, we're all expecting a Canva printable now. Exactly. We're just cutesy people with tons of time that we can do all these things. Oh, I have been pondering a lot about how people get it all done, and that might have to be a podcast here soon for me and you. But I look at some people and I think, how do you have time to do that and make the cutesy thing, for example, or how do you do all the things? And then I look at my own life and I'm like, it's checks and balances. It's, lefts and rights. You got to choose. We all are given the same amount of time. And so anyways, but let's do one more for today. And then we'll do our What's Cooking, which if you're new to listening, some people, or at least if I was listening to our podcast, I would zoom right ahead to the What's Cooking, because I love to know what's going on in Ashley's life, and I already know what's going on in my own. But yeah, I know. I like to hear that on people's podcasts too. Yeah. Yeah. Like what's going on. Number 11 is just so fitting, and will really round us out today, because it's a prayer that we need to be diligent to pray for our husbands, but also for ourselves, and that our husbands would seek wisdom
to seek wisdom, be asking for it in prayer, to be diligent in learning and being studious to receive wisdom from the Bible. And we get this encouragement today from James 1 verse 5. Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. So if we ask, we will receive that wisdom. What an amazing gift that we have the Bible in general, right? Like, we have the Word of God, and how much do we seek it for guidance and support and wisdom?
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, as you say, seek wisdom. I mean, that's where wisdom's going to come from, right? It's from the Word. And so maybe we've already covered it. I don't remember. Maybe we will be covering it, but I think that just is like, basically when you pray for your husband to seek wisdom, you are praying that he would be a man of the Word, that he would be in the Word. And it is the new year. And a lot of people start Bible reading plans in the new year. I have one that I do September through May. However, my husband started a new one January 1st, and I was like, well, I like the one I'm doing, but I would rather be on the same page with my husband. I would rather us be reading the same thing and talking about the same thing. So I just kind of started like, okay, well, I'm back in Genesis again, but that's fine. So anyway, so I started again with this reading plan, but just if your husband isn't able to consistently be in the Word, or if that's like a struggle, maybe if you could suggest doing a Bible reading plan together, that's a helpful thing, I think. And then also it just leads to a lot of really good conversation. If you come to something you have a question about and you ask him, I think he's probably going to be even more apt to be in the Word, so he can be the leader and answer your questions, or help study alongside you. So anyway, that's just one idea, but obviously wisdom's going to come from the Word. And yes, you can seek wisdom from other godly men, particularly older men, I would say, men that maybe are in a phase of life ahead of, your husband. But for the most part, I think that prayer is really just praying that he'd be in the Word, right?
Yes. So good. And I think that we struggle in general, both women and men do it within our own strength, especially when we are, I would say even more so if you're an intentional, highly driven, busy scheduled person, that you think that you got this. You don't got this. I don't got this. And so being in the Word is so important, and finding ways to do that. There's so much creativity to be had to be in the Word now, which is great. Audios, physical books, Bible studies, commentaries. I mean, they're all over. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. I love listening to, Doug Wilson again. He and another man, Aaron Ventura. I don't actually know much, I don't know much about him, but they do, what is it called? They call it, now I'm going to forget, but they have a whole series where they just talk about different books of the Bible. And they did that to pair along with their Bible reading program that they did. And then also there's like a surveying the text, which is a sermon series that Doug Wilson did, that he just goes over one book at a time. And I find that really helpful, especially if you are maybe caught up, because a lot of Bible reading plans will have like a day that's like a catch-up day, and it's still important to be in the Word and to be thinking about these things. And so that's especially the time that if I am caught up, I do like to listen to like a Bible commentary or a sermon on the particular book that I'm reading, that is, like an overview of it is really helpful. So anyway, that's not to do with my husband, I suppose, but that's just what I do.
Tips and tricks coming in hot all the time.
Yeah, it's good.
And we definitely, Ashley and I, have enjoyed learning from people like Pastor Douglas Wilson. And there are others out there, and too, I wouldn't say we have all of our eggs in one basket with Douglas Wilson. And I think that is a cautionary tale to anyone. If they're only listening to one man, it is really important to hear from a plethora of voices that you align with doctrinally. There was a pastor not too long ago who I enjoyed listening to some of his sermons, and then he fell into temptation. And I think it's just a sad reality that we need to be praying, obviously, for our husbands, but also for our pastors and other pastors. And we are all human, and we shouldn't idolize any one person over Scripture, over Jesus, So
yeah, absolutely.
Just a little.
And I like to listen to pastors that I align with doctrinally, but sometimes I even like listening to pastors that I don't necessarily have the same views in certain, not in like the first tier things. There are certain things that if they say something that I know to be, unbiblical, obviously, then it's no, then I'm not going to continue listening to them. But, excuse me, in terms of the things that are not completely clear, sometimes I do like to listen to pastors that have a different perspective. And I think that can be interesting. And it's helpful too when you're then having conversations with people that maybe don't have the exact same view you do. And I will say too, my husband and I do not completely agree on every single issue. I would say, like, again, the third tier sort of issues, not top, not the hills to die on. Those things, if we disagreed, we would have to figure it out and get it right? But the things that maybe I don't even completely agree with my pastor on, and again, those are not the number one top issues you need to switch a different church. These are like the sort of Bible's not totally clear. Could it go this way? Could it go that? Like that sort of thing, which I do. Oh my gosh, sorry, this is getting long and tangenty, but I do believe that those things are that way on purpose. Like there are things that I think we are actually not to know the answers to completely clearly because God did not see fit to give us the answers completely clearly. We do not know the exact day and time he's coming back. We just don't, and so there are so many different views on that. And anyway, all that to say, and so I will sometimes listen to a pastor that my husband listens to more, and sometimes he listens to a pastor that I listen to more. And of course, on Sunday mornings, we're sitting under Sunday evenings now, we're sitting under the preaching of the same pastor, and that's obviously very important. But yeah, and it makes for a really interesting conversation. And so, yeah, all of that I think is helpful in your marriage and helpful for both of you to think through different things biblically. So anyhow.
Yeah. That would be a great conversation. Another one, to get into, I was just thinking as you were talking, like, ultimately, the goal would be that you guys would be in alignment when teaching first tier issues, second tier issues, to your kids. And what if you're not? And, like in other marriages, like what if there are those first tier issues that are not in alignment? Darren and I have gone on our own kind of transition from certain things that we believed when we were growing up as children now to different camps. And so and sometimes he arrived at conclusions faster than I did. And sometimes I arrived there faster than he did. And just how to go about that growth and change within a marriage. So we'll have to take a note to talk about that too sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Because there are, and there's some things like you think like, what if your husband thought that a head covering on top of your hair was something that you had to biblically be doing, but you didn't agree with it? Then at that point you're submitting to your husband even, I don't know. Yeah, it is an interesting topic to think about, but anyhow, pray for your husband.
Yeah. Pray for your husband.
Yeah.
Okay, girl, what's been cooking at your house?
Well, we have piglets, and you've seen pictures.
I love them.
So cute.
I want them all.
Cute. I know. And it's so funny because it's like this weird temptation just to go in and like, you want to like grab them and just like cuddle them like they're like a kitten or something, but you can't really do that. They're piglets, and they'll start squealing and mom like pig will come and be not happy with you. But anyway, they were an accidental litter, but they are super cute and super fun, and they're all doing really well. We had our last litter of piglets was fine. The litter before, we lost a lot of piglets and it was awful. And there's certain precautions we've taken, but we still are not completely sure why. But that's just rough. Losing animals is rough. Even if it was a huge litter too, we didn't want that many. but even if you don't want that many, like, it's just kind of hard. So when that happens. So anyway, we have 5. They're doing great. Their big sister's living with them too. So they all cuddle together. Anyway, it's just fun and cute. So that's what's happening sort of in terms of livestock. In terms of kitcheny things, well, first of all, hosting. We've talked a lot about hosting. We're hosting our first home group on Monday night, and it's going to be a potluck style, I think. And this is just a homemaking constant thing, I feel like, especially when you live in a new home, as you know, still trying to work out logistics of big groups of people. Our house was not, it just wasn't built to accommodate huge groups of people in that way. And that's fine. We love our home, but it's an interesting thing because, and these are the things about homemaking that I think women who talk about how homemaking is boring. You're like, how is it, like, there are so many things, like, okay, so I need to work out, and listeners and Marissa, if you have suggestions, let me know at some point. But so I have to figure out how this group of 20 to 30, with kids, it's like 80. I don't know. It seems like a million people. There's a lot of families and a lot of children. So they're all going to come. We're all going to have a meal. And then we somehow have to make it so that the adults and any children that want to have like the home group discussion can have an area, and then everybody else, and then, I don't know, kids go wild and play in the rest of the house. I'm not sure because it's very wet and rainy here. And actually it won't be wet and rainy, but it'll be dark and cold that night. So anyway, that's just kind of a logistical homemaking thing that I'm going through in my mind right now. But in terms of food, I have also been working through my pantry and my freezer, and we have like no food. I actually am on multiple Azure drops, and I told one of my coordinators for the end of the month, I was like, I'm going to have to put pretty much everything on this drop I have coming up this week because I've used like all my groceries, which is a really fun, good feeling, as you know, because it's like, it feels like free food, even though you paid for it. So I did on my blog, I do have a chili recipe I threw together with a bunch of pantry staples. And I did like lentils and a squash I had and elk meat. And anyway, it was really good. But I've just been working through my things that I had in my fridge and freezer and pantry. And it's been good. It's fun. It's a fun, like, creative challenge.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
How's that been going for you?
Well, first, your blog, which is amazing. A Boring Home. Everyone should go check out. It's so good. Love it. It's anything but boring. So that's
we
so
live in
fun.
boring. This is why. Yeah.
It's so good. So definitely check that out. I feel like one thing that I want to like process through better for next year when I'm doing canning or freezing of whatever we're growing is that the thing I crave, which is ironic, in winter is fresh things like fresh veggies, fresh salads. And last year, or no, the year before, I made a bunch of carrot top chimichurri, which was just like kind of that like punch I needed, on top of me with potatoes in the winter type of thing,
I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt you because you gave me that recipe. It was so good. Where is that recipe? Is it available somewhere? Do you have it on your website?
I'll have to put it on my website.
Okay, you should, because it's so good.
And I loved that I could make like a massive amount and freeze it into like individual ones. And then in the winter, just pull it out. And then I made out of that same chimichurri, I made like a ranch chimichurri dressing.
Yeah.
I know, it was so good. It's not ranch, but like ranch where you use mayo and milk and some, vinegar, acidity and stuff. So that was really, really good. Again, I just want a fresh pop. And that is what I'm feeling I'm missing. And so I'm glad that I'm still doing a little bit of grocery, budget for the month. But we're still eating well. It's not like, look at me. I'm still eating well. I'm still huge. Right before you. I am not like shrinking away,
Oh, so good.
So yeah, but it's going good. I'm going to start on Monday. This is so like, we talked about this like 4 or 5 episodes ago, which tells you how busy I've been and haven't been doing what I wanted to do. But I finally Did it. I am starting on Monday with my children. We're calling it kitchen duty or kitchen
Oh,
something.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And so today I actually finished up I think I have like 2 more things to print out, but I made a binder and
So organized.
no, I'm going to have to like send you a Marco Polo to show it all because I'm really proud of it, which I know pride is not good. But I've been working on this for a while.
Sell that
And
ebook. I will buy it.
okay, good.
There you
Sorry.
are. Okay. But you should tell everybody what the duties are or like what that
Yeah.
means, just because that
Yeah.
was a few episodes ago. Yeah.
So I was feeling really convicted that learning a lot about health and learning a lot about like all these ingredients and different things that I really enjoy making things from scratch. But one, it is really hard to get everything made from scratch by yourself. Two, I want my children to understand and learn the whole process, not just, hey, mom makes it from scratch. And three, I want to eliminate these things like maltodextrin and cellulose, or I don't know, like all these words I can't even say. I want to get them out. I don't want them in my house. So I have 5 kids that are capable in the kitchen. I have 7 total, but I'm not trusting my 2-year-old and my 5-month-old to accomplish anything yet. So I have 5 things, and each day we're going to take 30 minutes and do a job. One person is only the sourdough, feeding of the sourdough and milling flour. That's going to be their only job every day.
I'm writing these down.
Oh, okay. I really should just go get my paper
with my children.
Okay. Well, I definitely will send you a polo, Ashley, and show you all the details. But okay, so that's one job. And then another job is bread choice all week. And it can be sourdough, it can be yeast. But what I'm going to try to train my children in is to go look at the menu that I have spent time making and say, hey, for dinner tonight or dinner tomorrow, like if they're working ahead, let's say, it looks like we are going to have steak and potatoes. I don't know, rolls would go good with this. So I'm going to make rolls tonight for tonight's dinner. And so then they're going to make that. Or, hey, I see on the menu, mom wants bagels tomorrow for breakfast. I'm going to make bagels today. So they'll be ready for tomorrow. Does that make sense? Okay. So I got sourdough milling. I got bread choice person. And then I got sourdough bread only person. So I feel like we don't need bread all the time, but my bread choice person has like tortillas and pretzels and rolls and muffins and, like all of the random bread things,
I feel like we need bread all the time.
Oh, like hot dog buns. I don't know, just all the things.
Yeah,
so
it's always something.
Always. And so my sourdough bread person is going to just be making like sandwich loaves or loaves of bread, like things that we would just eat lunches, breakfast toast, but sometimes sourdough takes like a 2-day process. So I have a prep day and a bake day. So we really will only be getting every other day new sourdough. Does that make sense? New bread. And then, okay, so that was 3 people. And then my 4th person, I'm calling them the breakfast condiment person. I need to come up with cutesy names. I just labeled it box 4 since I'm not creative. But so 3 days, so we're going to do it just Monday through Saturday. We'll take Sundays off. So 3 days of the week, they are condiments. So they look into the fridge to see what condiments need to be made or what is on the menu that needs it. So like ketchup, mustard, barbecue sauce, fry sauce, salad dressing, mayo, all of those things. And I have a list. I wrote a list out so that they can know these are what I'm supposed to be in charge of. Make sure they're in the fridge or make sure from the menu. And then the other 3 days, they're breakfast prep. So one day they're going to make overnight oats. One day they're going to make granola. And one day they're going to make yogurt. So that's their 6 days. Okay, so that's 4. And so the last person is, I don't know what to call it. So box number 5. They have 2 days of bean prep. So sometimes you have to soak beans. Sometimes you have to, finish the refried beans or get beans for taco soup or, chili beans, get them soaking or processed so I can use them in the meal. So that's 2 of their days. One of their days is kombucha. I usually do my kombucha every 2 weeks, but I have figured out how to do it once a week by skipping batches, if that makes sense.
Ooh.
And so they have kombucha, 2 beans. They get to be, oh, did balloons just come behind me?
What does it
that?
mean? What does it mean? Did it just
I
end?
symboled something in balloons.
Oh, I thought it was like you two have talked for too long. We're just stopping the podcast. Good job. Be done. Okay.
Be done.
But that's not what it was. Okay. I molded my kombucha. The mother completely
Really?
molded. Yeah, it was really sad.
I molded my sourdough. So my neighbor's giving me some.
Yeah, I mean, I can get kombucha from somebody else. I'm like, maybe more toward the summer. Anyway, okay, kombucha one day.
Yeah, beans 2 days, and then they get to be a dairy dessert person one day. So they can make ice cream, they can make eggnog, they can make pudding, they can make custard, I don't know, dairy dessert. And I made a list. And then the last day, which will be the Saturday, they get to make a special drink. So maybe a ginger ale, root beer, haystack, punch. I don't know. Like I have a bunch of lists of different ones, and some of them are healthy and some of them are fun, like iced tea, lemonade. I don't know. So that is my plan. Will I accomplish it is the question, but I'm starting Monday.
This, like, all of this is, first of all, basically a full-time job that we're doing.
Yes.
Right now. And also is going to be a full-time job, like would be a full-time job for me to teach my children all of this.
Yes.
But I think the idea that you have 30 minutes a day that you're teaching them, I feel like that is so smart, because if you just set aside that time, you're teaching them, then that's one of those things that it's so much work up front, but then it pays off so much in the long run.
Yeah. And so in my binder, I have it separated into sections of the 5 people, and I have recipes for all of the things. So my hope is that since I have at least 3 readers, like proficient readers, that they can take it and go and then just ask for help. And then my other 2, I'm going to probably be more hand holding to show them how to do things. And then they'll do the same thing for the full week. And then, so every 5 weeks they'll do something new, but I just couldn't in my mind have someone do the same thing all month. And I was like, they would maybe hit this like once a year, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind.
That's awesome. That's so valuable if you can teach them. And I think, just having older, I mean, my kids are not that old, but having a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old and realizing the things, I feel like I've been trying to diligently teach them a lot of things, but there's also a lot of things that I look back and I think I should have just started this earlier. Like they should have learned to do this. And then there's a lot of things that I didn't know. I only started sourdough and long enough ago that my kids should know how to do it. But it was, it was quite a while. It was a while ago, but they were, I should have just started teaching them then. So anyhow, okay. Blah, 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 blah. We have talked for so long.
Too long.
So long, yeah. We could go on and on and on. But anyway, this was very fun.
Yes, I'm so glad. And then thank you guys for watching us, listening to us die of hacking up whatever we're coughing and all of our grandiose ideas. Do not, like Ashley said, do not feel like this is prescriptive that you have to do this to be successful. This is just us sharing our experiences. We do have big families. We do have a mission to pray for our husbands. And so how to be diligent in that. Bottom line, take what you can. What is it? Caring is sharing. Sharing is caring. So we're
like that.
sharing it with you.
Yeah.
Because we care about you.
Yeah.
But yeah. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, tune in next week. It will be fun to continue our conversation.
For sure.
Yay. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.